Felix Borel, founder of Wolf's Hammer Martial Arts, is a disabled veteran who struggles with PTSD. Borel started Wolf's Hammer as therapy for himself in his garage approximately 3 years ago. He soon realized that what he had discovered was good therapy for himself could also help others struggling with PTSD and has grown his business from there. Wolf's Hammer Martial Arts offers classes in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, kickboxing, and kids martial arts. Hey, welcome back. I'm here with Felix Borel of Wolf's Hammer Martial Arts in Hot Springs, Arkansas. So tell us a little bit about what you do. I know you started the program as a form of therapy for yourself.
Right. Yes, absolutely. So we teach Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and Muay Thai kickboxing in our place. We have a kids program. But yeah, absolutely getting back to what we were really trying to talk about here. So this whole thing started as therapy for me. A lot of people don't know, but unless you've been terribly involved with mental health, it's kind of difficult to find any actual mental health care in the entire country. It's a real issue. It's a real problem. So a lot of vets are kind of left kind of to their own devices. A lot of times, sometimes due to the VA not being able to deal with the workload. Sometimes the help just isn't really what they're looking for. It's just tough, right? That and we as a country or as a civilization, we just don't really understand a lot about like PTSD and mental health. And it seems like the more we find, the more we don't know. So I started this. There was a good friend of mine. His name's James Langley. He asked me if I would start teaching him some kickboxing. And so we started actually in my living room, and that's when we originally started getting going. And what I found is that the more I started doing that, the better I felt. And before that, I tried it all. You name it, I tried it. I tried inpatient programs through the VA. I tried outpatient programs, a laundry list of different medications. Nothing worked. Nothing. Sure, some things made you. This will sound a little bit morbid, and I apologize. Some things made you want to maybe not kill yourself quite as much, but you were a zombie otherwise. It's not living, right? But what I found is the more I got physical, the better I felt. The more I returned to doing stuff when I was younger, the better I felt. And as we kept going, we ended up getting more people that started to come with us. We moved into my garage and got some mats in there, and we started doing some jiu-jitsu as well. And we just kept going. And what it turned into was, something where I felt all those things that I started feeling better and things started getting better for me. And I wanted to give that to other people. I figured if this can work for me, then surely it can work for someone else. And there wasn't really a good alternative, or there wasn't really a good place for people in Hot Springs to train. The next best place was in Little Rock or Benton. There was a couple places up there, but if they were anything like me at the time, funds were an issue. So if you're driving back and forth to Benton all the time or Little Rock all the time, that's not just a time issue, but it's a funds issue. Gas costs money. So that's when I decided to open my own place, and we moved into our first location.
And you went from your garage to where you are now, or was there some transition?
No, there was actually another spot. So we were at this little spot over off Malvern Avenue, right next to Dance City. We had a bunch of really cheap puzzle mats. We were doing it on a shoestring budget. We had a lot of people help us with a lot of stuff. My grandparents helped out. My parents helped out. My dad actually taught some of the classes. Everybody came together to really get this thing going. And, I think everybody was kind of playing it by ear. No one was really sure if it was really going to go or how it was going to work out, because like I said, we didn't have any money. We didn't have anything, month to month, we were trying to figure out how to pay the rent, how to pay the utilities, how to get the equipment that we needed. I knew nothing about how to run a business. I didn't know how to run ads or even speak to people or anything like that. I'd been a career military guy. From the time I was in my 20s, I joined the military, and that was my life. I didn't know who I was without my uniform. I had to find that out. And so it was interesting. It was definitely an interesting transition from being a soldier, an intelligence professional specifically, to that. But yeah, no, it was, we started there and we weren't there all that long, really. We outgrew it 6, 7 months, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really fast. So then we moved from there to where we are now, right next to the Cutting Crew in the same shopping center as Wellens Meat Market there in South Park Plaza, and we've been going ever since.
Oh, congratulations. And
Thank
that
you.
was, I don't think you mentioned it. I know it was in the bio, but you started that about 3 years ago, right?
Approximately, yeah. It's hard to really nail down the date of when we actually really started doing stuff, but yeah, I want to say it was probably around 3 years ago. Because, like I said, we were starting off in a garage. Well, I mean, in my living room, really. It used to drive my wife crazy. She's always been my biggest supporter, so I don't want to downplay any of that. But there were definitely times when she's like, "Are they really coming over again?"
Yes, they're coming over again.
But then we turned and we have what we have now, and it's really turned into something special. It's still a struggle and it's still tough, but we found a way for both of us to stay home and both of us to have our own schedules, and for us to go from what we were doing, working for other people, to working for ourselves, which even though it's risky and it's scary at times, it's extremely rewarding. It's a lot easier, I find, to work really hard when you're working for yourself. You're building your own dreams. Hard days are not quite as hard when you know that all the sweat you put into it, you're going to see that, and it's so that's been really special. I think on the hardest days, that's really kind of what gets us through. Is we're not working for anyone else; we're working for us, which is I think pretty special.
Absolutely. I totally get that with everything I've
Yep.
kind of got going on here. How do you feel that martial arts training, I know you said it's therapeutic for you and others
Mhm.
with PTSD, but how do you feel all the way around it just is beneficial to other people?
So I talk to a lot of people from a lot of different walks of life. Obviously, in my industry, it's martial arts specific, but I end up speaking to a lot of vets. So that's kind of my those are the people that I know the best. That's my demographic. But what I can tell you is this seems to apply to everyone. I have a lot of people that will come to me and talk to me about the issues that they have in their lives and all the other problems that they're running into, and they're just like, I've got so many issues. I mean, where do I start? And what I tell everybody is start with the physical. If you can do something as simple as getting up in the morning and just say, tomorrow morning I'm going to get up and I'm going to do 10 push-ups. It doesn't matter what it takes. I'm going to do 10 push-ups tomorrow morning. You get up and you start doing it. It's a little bit easier to start being a little bit more disciplined everywhere else. You know, Not to steal too much from Jocko Willink, but a lot of what that guy says is very, very accurate. It's very good stuff. And if you're not clued into him, you need to be. Jocko is a former Navy SEAL. And he runs an extremely successful business called Echelon Front, and they're incredible. They're really, really talented folks. They're really helping a whole lot of people. Anyway, he talks about this a lot, and one of the things that he talks about is that discipline equals freedom, right? And the whole concept is that if you can, if you can force yourself to do the right things, you'll feel better, and then you'll have better days. What I tell all the people that come into my fitness program, because a lot of people come in and the way we hook them is, we say stuff like, body fat loss and things like this. But when we actually sit them down, everybody has a common theme when I talk to them. And the common theme is that they're all looking for better days. We say that we want body fat loss, or we say that we want more energy, or we say we want this, or we say we want that. Those are all symptoms of a bigger issue. And the bigger issue is I'm not enjoying my quality of life. Things are not going well for me. And so what I tell people is if you start with the physical, you'll feel better. Now, let's get back to like martial arts specifically, so jiu-jitsu. So jiu-jitsu specifically is very intensive. It's a thinking man's game. It looks from the outside looking in like it's a couple of gorillas fighting each other, right? It's easy to think that if you don't know what's happening. But when you actually start participating in it, what you find is that if you don't think, you lose. You have to think the whole time. And so there's no room in your head for all the other stuff that's going on in your life. So for that hour and a half, when you're doing jujitsu, nothing else exists. It's just there. It's just the mats. It's just you. Nothing else is present. And so you get that escape that you really just don't get anywhere else. And on top of that, it's beneficial. You're growing as a human. You are getting better, stronger, faster, and in a lot of ways, you're getting smarter. Because it's really high-level problem solving with dire physical consequences.
And you're kind of having to think one step ahead.
Absolutely. Jiu Jitsu is very commonly, or grappling, I should say, is very commonly referred to as human chess. Where it's, because eventually you get to the point where everybody's kind of on the same level. Everybody really knows the same stuff. And the guy who's a little bit more intelligent, the guy who can think better, who can get ahead of the other guy, that's the guy who wins. So if you can't think, then you lose. So you end up having to wipe everything else that's going on in your life out of it so that you can focus on what's going on. And so you feel better. Now, the hardest part about it is getting there, right? That's the hardest thing. And I think that's the hardest thing that a lot of people have with going to the gym, period, is it's counterintuitive, right? I'm tired. I don't feel good. Maybe I have a couple of old, injuries that are nagging at me. Why would I want to go to the gym and go get beat up, right? It doesn't make sense. But what you find is if you'll just step in the door and you just try it, you'll feel better. You'll get that dopamine rush that you just can't get anywhere else. And it doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't cost you a hangover. It doesn't cost you side effects from any kind of medications. It doesn't cost you anything but some time and your monthly dues. That's all. And your quality of life is just exponentially better. I can tell you that even for me, it is a struggle knowing full well what the benefits are of training. It's a struggle a lot of days getting in there. But if I get in there, exactly right.
Just as guilty as anyone else. It's like, I know I need to go. I know it's going to help my mood throughout the day, just help me feel better. Yeah, it's just a struggle.
It's tough, right?
So it's good to know it's a struggle for you too. When you're in there every day and you're doing it. And to know that you also have those real people struggles when it comes to doing it.
It's tough. It's tough. Especially, when we let our heads get to us, things that make us depressed or bother us, it's very easy to let those things take over. But if you just get there. On my worst days, I know that if I can just make it to 6:30, it's going to be all right. Because at the end of that day, I've got jiu-jitsu. And then I can reset everything. And
just get there.
Yep, just get there. Just make it in the door. Just go to class. You'll feel better.
So one day at a time, one step at a time, one breath at a time.
Absolutely.
Start small. 10, what do you say, push-ups?
10 push-ups.
10 push-ups and just build it from
Absolutely.
there. And that's great. So through all of this and everything you've done, it sounds like you've faced a lot of challenges. What do you feel like is the biggest challenge that you've overcome?
I would say probably trying to reinvent myself. I'd say that's probably been the most difficult part of this. I don't like to speak too highly of myself, but in my previous career, I was pretty good at what I did. I worked in the intelligence field. My last assignment, I was at the National Ground Intelligence Center out in Charlottesville, Virginia, and I was attached to some pretty high level folks. I was really, really good at what I did, and that was my identity. That was everything that I knew. There wasn't anything else that was really remarkable about me. That was it. And then when I got diagnosed with PTSD and I couldn't deploy anymore, that was all gone. All of it. 9 years of investment. I spent my off time researching this stuff. I worked extra to make sure that I was as good as I could be at what I did. I really, really put in all the extra work. I really, really worked hard. And when all that was taken away from me, I didn't have anything. Everything that was me was gone. And I would say trying to reinvent myself after that has been really the most difficult part. I had to stop identifying as just a veteran because there was more to me than that, and that wasn't going to carry me very far. And I didn't want to be just someone that people felt bad for. I didn't want to be the kind of person that people came to because I was a vet and they felt bad for me. I wanted people to see me as someone who contributed, who was there to add to, not just consume. And that was tough because, like I said, it was all I ever knew. It was the culture I'd been around from, like I said, from the time I was in my 20s. And I didn't know anything else. So that would probably be the most difficult one. Obviously, there's been lots of other struggles along the way, but if I had to point to one, that would probably be it.
So what do you feel like through that was your turning point, like your this is it, I've got to do something different? Was there something that triggered that, or was it just...
So on that last assignment I was talking about when I was in Charlottesville, I'd been diagnosed with PTSD before that in my last tour in Iraq. So when I was in Iraq, I was evac out of Iraq for symptoms related to PTSD, and that's when I got diagnosed. So they took me out of country, and I got back, and I kind of bounced from job to job for a little while, doing some minor things that just really weren't good fits. And then I got back into contracting. I moved up to Charlottesville, and so I was going to deploy out of there. At the last minute, they changed the rules so that I had to get cleared by the Army because they had diagnosed me. So I had to go to the VA, and I had to talk to a doctor by the name of Peyton Hurt. He was a colonel, retired. He says, he humored me. I didn't know this at the time, but that's all it really was. I had to go and sit in front of him and talk to him, and he was supposed to either clear me to go or not. And I lied through my teeth about my symptoms and everything.
I've never done that.
Is that right? Never even lied to a doctor, right? Never. But I lied through my teeth to this guy, and even still, he sat, after I was done, he sat back, and I wouldn't say he smiled at me, but he looked at me like a grandfather that knew that you just lied through your teeth to him, right? And he said, "Listen, son, I can't let you go." And it broke me. I'm getting emotional thinking about it. He said, "I can't let you keep doing this to yourself." He said, "You've given all you got." He said, "There's no more for the country to get out of you. You're done. There's no more." And I told him, I said, "They'll fire me." I said, "I can't." I said, "This is all I have." He said, "You got to find something else." He said, "There's something else out there. You got to find it." He said, "But this isn't it. You're done. You're done doing this." And like I said, it crushed me. I sat in his office for a good 15 minutes. I cried. And, but he was right. The military had gotten all the Felix Borel there was to get out. And so that was it. And at that point, I knew I had to find something else. So I did. I came back, and I again tried to find a couple of other jobs. I worked with my buddy James. That's actually how that all got started. I worked over at Dan's Whetstones with him. While I was there, that job didn't really work out either, and it was not them, it was me. I needed some therapy, and I needed to find, I needed to fix myself. There was no job that was going to help me or that I was going to be cut out for. I needed to fix myself, or at least get on the road to fixing myself. And so I went into the VA inpatient program, and while I was there, I decided that I was going to open up my own gym. And that was really the real shift, was while I was in that inpatient program. There's the logo actually while I was in was designed by one of the other guys that was in the program with me. Pretty neat. I still haven't used it ever since. I probably never changed it just for that reason. But yeah, that was it. When I was the real turning point was probably in Dr. Hurt's office. But ironic name, I'm sure. But yeah, I was pretty upset with him at the time. But he was right. I can't imagine that there would have been any good that would have come from me deploying again.
Sometimes it feels like everything is just not going like we planned. For me, it's a faith thing. I believe, God works things out, and sometimes I look at it and I'm like, Lord, why is this happening? This is not the plan I had for my life. And then in the end, we realized He had something so much more for us.
Right.
And now you are taking your talents and gifts and things that you're passionate about and using that to help other people.
Right.
So what would be, if you could give one piece of advice to someone struggling with PTSD, what would it be?
So I would say, let's go back to the beginning where we talked about, starting with the physical. If you can start with the physical, things get better, right? It's counterintuitive because, people with PTSD, they isolate. Everything in them tells them to stay in, I know I'm a military vet, and so that's kind of my demographic, and that's what I speak to the most. But what a lot of people don't know is that, people in the military that have PTSD are actually the smallest demographic of folks with PTSD. It's the biggest one are rape victims, if I'm not mistaken. And so people with PTSD, the thing that they want to do the most is to isolate, and especially now with COVID, it's not only easy to isolate, it's encouraged. And that's been the hardest part for so many people, is that mental health struggle with PTSD, or with any sort of mental health issue, because it's imposed on us to isolate now.
It's so important having a support system, and being isolated from everyone and everything else. It definitely makes it difficult.
Right. And so one of the things we don't necessarily have to get out in front of people. So that's not really what I'm saying. What I'm saying is get outside your box, right? Start with the physical. Get outside. Go do stuff. Go do something. If you can walk to the fridge, you can walk around your house. If you can walk around your house, you can walk around your neighborhood. If you can walk around your neighborhood, you can walk a couple miles. The more you do this, the more you're going to start feeling better. It's free dopamine. Just go get it. It doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to take a pill. There's no side effects. Just go do it. You'll feel better, and you'll have more energy. It's always better. And if I was going to add something else, I would definitely say that you need to talk to somebody that you trust. You need to find someone that you can, for lack of a better term, that you can word vomit all over, because we need somebody that we can just speak all of our truths to. Someone that's not going to judge us. That's that we don't have to be afraid to speak to. I'm particularly lucky. I have a couple of them. One of them is probably one of my very closest friends. His name is John Crow. John's there for me no matter what. John listens to me. He is there for me, and he'll give me a kick in the rear end when I need it. But he's never. It doesn't matter what I say to John. John's always going to be there. There's literally nothing I could tell him that would make him not be there. And like I said, I'm lucky I have two. The other guy is my Muay Thai coach here in town, and that's Dan Hoagland. Dan's another one. Dan's been there, done that. He gets it. He understands. There's nothing I could tell Dan that would make him turn his back on me. Nothing. You need that. And then if I were to give a third piece of advice, you need to be that for somebody else. I would dare say the best therapy is probably helping other people. It's counterintuitive. You think to yourself, I don't have anything to give, but you do.
I agree with that completely. I actually had a friend the other day who had done a post, and it asked who was blessed more, the giver or the receiver. And definitely the giver. Every
100%.
time. It's rewarding for you, it's rewarding for them, and definitely will make you feel better about yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's what I would say. Start with the physical. You need someone you can trust that you can talk to. Don't hide in your bubble, because it's easy to do. We don't, people with PTSD, we don't want to talk to people because it seems like everything is tied to that trauma somehow. But you got to let that stuff out. It's got to get out. Otherwise, it'll crush you. Your sickness, your illness wants you to stay inside. And then the last thing, be that for somebody else. There's plenty of us out there. Just go find somebody like you and start talking to them. It's the blessings that both of you will get. They're just immeasurable. And we need that. So that's probably what I would tell people.
Okay, so that's great advice. So just get started, get out of your bubble, get physical. I've heard that just getting up in the morning and making your bed makes you feel accomplished. You've done something to get your day started. So get up, make your bed, do 10 push-ups, maybe walk around your house, or if you're behind that, go for the block. And just extend that one day at a time, one step at a time, one breath at a time, and just keep growing that. Find someone to talk to. We all need someone that we can just word vomit on at some point. I know there's days I have friends who they're just like, whoa, and or days that I'm just like, whoa. and it's definitely a thing. Be a good listener at the same time. Be that for someone else and be there when they need you. So I just want to thank you so much for coming to the show. This is Felix Borel with Wolf's Hammer Martial Arts. You want to tell them one more time where you're located?
So 3907 Central Avenue, Suite D. We're in the same shopping center as well as Meat Market, and we're right next to the cutting crew. You can also find us at hotspringsjujitsu.com.
Thank you so much, Felix, for joining us today. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you'll join us on the next show, and just have a perfectly imperfect day.